So, gin made with sheep's milk. Sounds strange, but this could quite possibly be the most innovative and exciting gin on the planet right now. But more importantly, does it taste any good? Well, you're about to find out, and we're starting right now. G'day folks, for those of you that are new here, my name's Tim and welcome to Tim and Tonic, where we discover the world's best gins and how to drink them. So, as you just heard, this gin is made with sheep's milk. But there's a little bit more that goes into it than that. So it's called the Sheepway gin, which refers back to the production process, and it's made at the Hartshorn distillery right here in Australia, down in Tasmania. Now, it's a very small distillery owned and operated by a guy called Ryan Hartshorn. His family actually owns a sheep cheesery, which is what inspired him to make this gin, and he also makes vodkas as well. I don't know how many of you are familiar with cheese making, but in the process, you have to split the milk into the curds and the whey. Now, the curds is what goes into making the cheese, and the whey is essentially just a liquid byproduct. Being a resourceful guy, Ryan hated seeing all this whey go to waste, so he thought, what can I make it into? Eventually, he found out he could ferment the whey and then distill it to create a base spirit for all his different products. And so that's how this gin came about. It's essentially made from a base spirit that comes from that sheep whey, plus some botanicals on top of that. Speaking of those botanicals, Ryan keeps it a little bit of a secret what he puts in here, but we do know obviously there has to be juniper in there, otherwise it's not gin. Then on top of that, there's 6 Australian natives, which he claims that 3 of them have never been seen in gin before. The other thing to know is that all these botanicals are vapor infused, so essentially that means they're just steamed with the spirit, and that's how the botanical flavor gets into the gin. So there's a lot of mystery and a lot of questions surrounding this gin, so nothing left to do but give it a taste. I have to say, I'm pretty excited about this one because it's probably one of the most unique and interesting gins I've tried so far on the channel. Let's see what it's all about. Oh wow, I think what's so amazing about this gin is the way the character of that base spirit shines through. You really get that sense of kind of super creaminess about it. And to me, I don't know if you had these as a kid, but when I was growing up, I used to eat those little milk bottle lollies or milk bottle candies, and that smell just comes through really, really powerful. I do also get some nice subtle spice notes coming through. Maybe there's a little bit of pepperberry in this one, I'm not sure. On top of that, obviously there's that woody juniper coming through, plus you've got some lemon peels and a little bit of floral rose petals too. I have to say, I've never smelled anything like this, but in the best possible way. I really can't wait to give it a taste, so let's do it. Oh man, same thing again. That texture, it's just so good. It just coats your mouth, it's creamy, it's vanilla, so good. Honestly, I'd have to say that rarely does the base spirit have such a big impact on the gin as what it does here. And obviously I think that's what they were going for. I mean, it makes sense, you know, that's a unique point of difference, and I just love it. I have to say though, the botanicals are a little bit more subtle, but similarly to the nose, you've got that peppery spice, there's a little bit of woody notes coming through from juniper, plus really those kind of delicate floral notes, rose petals, maybe even a tiny little bit of lavender-like kind of taste to it. Really, really nice, really pleasant. I mean, it's a really good gin and like nothing else I've ever tried before. Like I said though, this is a delicate and subtle gin. It is still very much a gin. I definitely get the juniper coming through. But if you're expecting that big London dry hit or that big contemporary Aussie gin hit, this is not that. It is amazingly delicious and unique though. Because of this delicate flavor profile, it's gonna make it a little bit more tricky to mix into drinks, so let's talk about that. You can look at this at one of 2 ways. Either it's really easy to mix into drinks because it's super versatile, it's gonna be more about the other flavors rather than the gin, it's just gonna give you that kind of alcohol backbone. You could treat it like a vodka. Or on the other hand, it's really difficult because you wanna let the flavor profile of this gin shine through no matter what drink you're making. And of course, this channel is all about the gin, so let's talk about the hard stuff. First up, mixed drinks, gin and tonics, gin and sodas. Very simply, this one goes best for me with soda water, not too much. Even compared to what you'd usually do, drop the ratio down. So either increase the amount of gin or decrease the amount of mixer. That way the gin and that flavor profile, especially that texture, can carry through. Tonic and the quinine can be a little bit overwhelming, but if you really have to go for a tonic water, I have to say that elderflower tonic is a little bit of a guilty pleasure of mine with this one. Again though, play with that ratio to find the sweet spot. I wouldn't go much above 2 parts of tonic to 1 part of gin. In terms of garnishes, keep it simple. Just elevate a flavor that you already find in this gin. Nice long strip of lemon peel, absolutely delicious. As for cocktails, a little bit easier. It's pretty obvious. This is a gin that's absolutely made for a martini. You know, that texture is just so silky smooth. It's just absolutely screaming out for it. Plus, you're not gonna lose any of those delicate flavors. Garnishing this martini, stay away from all those savory based flavors and stick more with your citrus ones, like either a lemon peel, or if you want that little extra floral dimension, grapefruit peel here can work great too. So far, we've talked about how this gin's made, the flavor profile, and how to mix it, so it's time for the final verdict. Now, hard and fast facts always come first. So with this gin, we're talking about either a 500 or 700 ml bottle. It comes in both. We're talking it's 40% alcohol content. And lastly, the price comes in at $90 or $110, depending on which size bottle you're buying here in Australia. In that regards, all looks pretty standard, sounds pretty pricey, but in terms of that, I think you have to appreciate when distilling and making your own base spirit. First off, that's much more time consuming and expensive. Most gins here in Australia actually buy it in from a bigger distillery and then redistill it with their botanicals. And then on top of that, the sheep's whey itself, unlike grain or grapes or something like that, it doesn't have a readily available source of sugar to break down as easily. It's essentially proteins which need to be turned into something fermentable first, or different yeast strains. I don't know, I'm not an expert. We could probably ask Ryan about that one, but it's much, much, much more difficult than simply just grapes or grain, as everyone else kind of does. So do I think this gin is worth that price tag? I absolutely do. You know, it's just got that X factor that you don't see in many gins. A lot of them are quite similar. This one is completely different and completely unique. You should add it to your collection just for that fact. You can surprise people. They will have never tasted anything like it. If you enjoyed the sound of this Sheep Whey gin, I've got plenty more where that came from. Click the subscribe button that's popping up here right now so you don't miss out on any new reviews as they're coming out in the channel. In the meantime, click through the playlist here and you can see all the reviews that I've already done. Guys, hope you enjoyed. See you next time. Cheers.